Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. I'm Adam Simmons, and we're back at GEOINT 2023 here in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the pleasure of talking with Trey Treadwell. He's the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Treasury,
Yes.
Correct? And Trey, can you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit more formally and tell me a little bit how you got involved with the industry as a whole?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. This is my first GEOINT. I've been part of the geospatial community for over 20 years. I am at the Department of Treasury right now in a detail from OD&I, Office of Director of National Intelligence. I've been with them for about 13 years, since 2010 now. Just finished about a 4-year role as the intelligence community's chief financial officer. And at about that point in time, it seemed like a good time to move on to something else. And one of the biggest challenges we have in the intelligence community overall is so much of the intelligence community effort is spent on defense intelligence and focusing on military overall. However, we have 4 instruments of national power that we really exercise: diplomacy, informational, military, and economic. And of those 4, the Department of Treasury is the leverage arm for the economic instrument of national power, and how we leverage tariffs, how we issue sanctions, how we use the global power of the U.S. economy to influence our national security policy and global policy and norms of and prerogatives and principles of the United States. And in that avenue, the Department of Treasury Office of Intelligence and Analysis is one of the smallest elements of the IC. Was stood up in the wake of 9/11, even before the IRTPA. It was established around 2003, 2004 timeline in statute, and as a result to focus on countering the threat finance and how terrorists move money globally, and really look at those activities and understand how we can cut off their access to funding and finance. It has been a very enlightening opportunity because most of my career, 11 years active duty in the Air Force, working NRO programs, about 4 years in the private sector, advising on intelligence community programs, and then coming back to OD&I in the office of the Chief Financial Officer since 2010. And I tell this to a lot of young professionals, like I've been with OD&I now for 13 years. I'm on my 7th job. And so people shouldn't get too complacent and stay one place, keep growing and learning and challenging yourself. And when you lay out that plan for where you want to be, I never would have envisioned this is where I would be at this point in my career. So very lucky to have had such a great opportunity in the intelligence community for a little over 25 years now, and really loving just the opportunity to serve.
Excellent. So circling it back around to the Treasury side of things, and maybe bringing it down a couple levels, what does your role have to do with GEOINT?
Thank you for that question. I've been here, this is my 3rd day here at GEOINT. I've been asked that question a lot by a lot of my friends and colleagues across the community that are here. And they're like, why is Treasury, why are you interested in GEOINT? And I have both a personal interest and a professional interest. And the personal interest is I've been doing this for a long time. Like I said, it's my first GEOINT symposium. Super excited to be here. Been working with a lot of these companies in different capacities and the organizations for a long time. Treasury specific is coming out of our history of being counter-threat finance. We have made a major shift in how we do our work and the work that we do, focusing less on the CT work in business and more on the strategic global macroeconomic analysis and informing policymakers on the things that they need to be aware of from a global economic perspective, or specifically in Russia and China and what they're doing and where they're doing it, trade activities, movement of dollars, the threat of Chinese using their economy and driving towards only being able to use the RMB as a currency for trading with China. Well, when we look at all of this information, and so much of the economic information is available in the public space and commercially available or publicly available, it's just data. And there are billions, if not trillions and petabytes and exabytes of data that are out there. Well, the geospatial community is looking at data, and especially unclassed data, in a lot of different ways. So what I'm trying to learn is that how is the geospatial community looking at data, and how are they analyzing it? How are they applying AI, ML technologies to that? Because I want to be able to bring that same sort of capability and technology into the Treasury. as a small element, we don't have a lot of acquisition expertise or capability. We have mostly analysts, and my role within the Office of Intelligence and Analysis is sort of like the chief operating officer. I've got human capital, I've got the budget, I've got the infrastructure on the IT side from a secure side perspective. And so I provide all of those capabilities to our analytic core. And I want to start to bring in more of the technology that the community is using overall. And part of being at GEOINT is learning what's out there, what's available, who's doing what, and how do I get access to that. And then starting to create some strategic partnerships, specifically with those organizations that could do that, such as NGA, DIA, NSA, NRO, CIA, and others that are also here, and sort of establish that relationship. And yesterday I visited Moonshot Labs, where we met, and was a great opportunity to see what they're doing, totally unclassified, engaging the private sector, sort of this open consortium ability to bring in expertise that we just haven't traditionally accessed in the intelligence community, and bring that to the Department of the Treasury and our intelligence analysis and our policymakers, so that we're getting really what's available, not just things that we have known for years and years.
So this sounds like the beginning of a larger engagement from your organization to reach out and do more, right?
Absolutely. The Treasury Department and the Secretary was, I say recently added to the National Security Council. I don't know the exact point in time, but it's been in the last couple of years. And so sort of shifting the Department of Treasury just from looking at the U.S. economy and what we do there to really being a national security component, a customer of intelligence very heavily is a priority, and how we inform those policymakers on the decision that they're making and provide them with accurate, timely, and relevant intelligence to make those informed decisions.
So far, what have you seen at the conference? You don't have to mention specific companies, but any general technologies that have kind of impressed you or caught your interest?
So, I mean, the common theme and word of the day is AI/ML, and what we're leveraging and what you see on the floor a lot of is everybody has some component of AI/ML in their display, it seems like, and that takes on different flavors. I think the overall is we need to be able to look at data, the data that's available to us. How do we organize it? How do we structure it? How do we sift through it? And while the geospatial component is interesting and something I care greatly about, how do I draw that corollary between that and our global economic system and think about that as a geospatial problem in terms of just data and analyzing and identifying what the anomalies and characteristics are of it that we need to be paying attention to. And so dealing with the quantity of data, how you sort through it, we can't do it with people anymore. It's just too massive and too much information. And focusing on how we leverage what the leading edge technologies are doing to sift through that data and highlight those things that we need to be watching for and watching out for.
Well, excellent. So as we wrap up, I want to give you one last question. I know you touched on in the beginning when you talked about your career a bit, but any words of inspiration for young professionals who are interested in, maybe not even interested yet, but what would you say to get them interested in the career?
I would say that there's an interesting bit of work everywhere you look, and if you just continue to pursue the things that interest you and continue to learn and grow and challenge yourself and say, all right, be curious. I think that's the key element, is be curious and don't be afraid to step forward. I learned early on in my career, when I was a relatively junior Air Force captain, I stood up in a room one time where I probably shouldn't have been in the first place and asked a question I probably shouldn't have asked in the second place. And I had an old crusty colonel that came up to me afterwards and said, don't ever stop doing that, because you're asking questions, you're being curious, and you're saying, hey, I don't know this, why are we doing it? And if you're the one that has that question, especially in a large room, you're rarely going to be the only one that has it. Don't be afraid to stand up and ask the question, put yourself out there, learn something new, and then put that to good use.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you for your time with us, and pleasure talking to you, learning more about what your organization, the US Treasury, has to do with GEOINT. Very interesting. And I'm Adam Simmons, a product of Geospatial. We'll talk to everybody next time.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.